Right, good evening everybody, and welcome to the Oakwood Centre here. Sorry for a little bit of a debate starting, a few technical issues, but anyway, that's always going to happen, isn't it, before something like this. So welcome along tonight to our annual Community Heroes Award and our town meeting. So the way the evening is going to run is, first off we've got an award ceremony. So every year members of the public nominate people to receive Community Heroes Awards, and each year we like to hold a bit of a celebration of those people who are winners. We show little videos of them so that you as an audience can understand what they've done and why they've won awards, and then we'll hand out those awards. That's going to take about 25 minutes hopefully, and then at the end of that what we'll do is we'll move into the more formal element of the town meeting. Councillor Anderson, as the current town mayor, will chair that element of the meeting. We'll have a presentation from Woking Borough Council on that, the climate emergency, and then we will take open questions from anyone that has questions tonight about any topic that the council controls. We've got a few in advance, and hopefully we will wrap that all up by about 8:30, and then we'll be able to head into the Carnival and Maxwell Suite where there's some free wine, free cheese. Which is why you're all here, isn't it? Yeah. We knew that would work, didn't we? So, without much further ado, let's crack straight on with the evening. So, the first section of this evening is about the Community Hero Awards. Now, our Civic Awards, as they used to be known, have been running since 2001, in fact, and are awarded to individuals and organisations whose good work benefits the town and its residents. They're awarded to good neighbours, people or organisations who carry out voluntary work, or those who care for people in our community. So far in the 23 years we've been doing the awards, we've handed out 106 awards. We've got 4 to go tonight, so that will be our 110th by the end of the night, which I think is fantastic. So, the first award tonight goes to a gentleman who initially went out of his way to help a neighbour when they were a victim of an online scam, and then became a real community hero by helping local residents understand how to stay safe online. Let's see his story. David, are you right to run the...
So I've been nominated for helping neighbours and community in Woodley for staying safe online, making sure they're aware of the latest scams. And some of these from our neighbours, they've actually been a victim of scam.
Vic is a real community hero, as he has helped me and other neighbours stay safe online. He lives and breathes our mantra of being an inclusive society and helping those in need in the community we serve.
How did I get into cybersecurity? It's an interesting journey. I studied law at university, went into the legal profession. I found out about cybersecurity, and I went back to uni, retrained in cybersecurity, and I never looked back.
Bikram is a great example of being passionate about everything to do with Woodley. Cybersecurity is a topic which can easily be full of jargon, but Vic is approachable and willing to answer every question with knowledge and enthusiasm.
So I began to help neighbours when, unfortunately for some of them, they was a victim. They unfortunately clicked on a phishing scam, lost some money. Some of them were a victim of romance scams, and they knew of me. So they asked me to come along, help them retrieve their data, and also secure their online profiles. And from there, it snowballed. So I was asked by other neighbours to come along and help them, and even some communities like the Women's Institute here in Woodley.
Vic took on the challenge of helping us after we were scammed. He really took the time out and helped, and it even inspired my daughter to study computing. Vic has built good relationships with people in Woodley, and is a great person.
What prompted me to help the community here in Woodley is probably because I want Woodley to be the most secure town in the UK. Simple as that. The feedback I get from residents is often they say to me like, Bikram, I was so shy before, I've been scammed. It's also like a taboo topic, they don't want to talk about it. But now they feel more confident sharing their experiences with others, and they realise that so many other people have been scammed and they help each other out.
His enthusiasm was infectious. He took the time out of his day to look after my friend, give us all advice,
and help set up useful things on our phones and tablets. I would like to thank Vic for being a pleasure and so passionate. We're lucky to have him in Woodley.
To be nominated as a Community Hero Award is I'm very thankful for that. I'm very, humbled by it to feel that people appreciate my work. I never went out my way to do this, to be recognised. For me, it's all about just helping the community. I just want to say thank you to anyone who's nominated me. I really, am humbled by it, appreciate it. And if anyone feels they need to reach out to someone for support because they've been a victim of a scam, or they want support, you're more than welcome to reach out to myself and I can help them. Don't be shy to reach out for help because there's so much out there to keep you safe and secure online.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, would you like to welcome up Vikram Thank you very much. Excellent, thank you very much. More technical issues with my clicker, so we're going to get this thing in a minute. I think, David, can you just... Brilliant. That's exactly how I planned it. Anyway, what we'll do now is we'll head on to our second award of the evening. So our second award tonight goes to a community organisation set up during the pandemic who have helped hundreds of families in the area by providing school meals and activities during the holidays. Run by local volunteers who give their time to ensure the children of Woodley have food during the school holidays, this is a true example of what can be achieved when people come together.
I'm Juliet Sherritt and I'm the chair of Woodley Lunch Bunch and the co-founder with Shirley Boyd. We set up Lunch Bunch in the pandemic to cater for children in the school holidays who wouldn't be receiving their free school meals. So we wanted to help out by providing some lunches and some activities to keep the children busy. And we found ourselves continuing all this time later.
Hi, my name is Brett Lees. Yeah, I've been aware of Lunch Bunch for a few years now. I know they started during the pandemic to sort of like bridge the gap in terms of what kids were getting in terms of school dinners, and suddenly people were like being homeschooled and at home, and there was this big challenge. In this area, the challenges that we have and the families have, and the need for something like this, in the 21st century affluent country, we don't need to sort of like, helping families feed their children.
The school holiday lunch club in Berkshire says demand for their services has never been higher. Woodley Lunch Bunch in Wokingham started in the pandemic, but their support has grown ever since. Kieran Fitzpatrick went out with their delivery.
There's one set of challenges associated with the pandemic, another set of challenges with the cost of living crisis. So when you see the people I'm aware of, we're not like juggling, do we put the heating on, do we feed the children, and all those elements. So you see that all that going on, and there's an organisation there that helps with some of those challenges. That's kind of the reason why Woodley Lunch Bunch was, I felt, very, very deserving of this award.
Our volunteers are absolutely incredible. They turn up, whatever the weather, they'll be there first thing in the morning, cracking on, doing the job. Many of our volunteers we've had on board from the start. They understand the heart of what we're trying to do, which is to help local children in our community.
Every charity is full of really, really good at giving kind of people, and this is a great example of a charity with that type of person.
One of our volunteers, everybody has a soft spot for her, and that's Rosemary. She's an absolute trooper. She's in her 80s and she has been on board from the very beginning. She turns up every time. She's lovely. She gets stuck in, and you wouldn't know that she was in her 80s from the energy that she brings to the project, and everybody's got a soft spot for Rosemary.
A massive thank you must also go to Shirley, Julie, Jen and Vicky on the committee. They dedicate a huge amount of time to Lunch Bunch and work so hard to make everything happen.
The stuff that we see, the delivery of food, the smiley faces and all the things that you see, but the work that goes on in the background in terms of big fundraising, particularly for these guys, collecting food, going out to organisations and pitching why this is a really important challenge. There's so much work that goes on in the background that we don't see. Part of the reason I nominated them is that appreciation that I see bits of what they do, but I know there's a lot more that they do that we don't see. So it's a case of saying, a really, really big thank you.
So there's no sign of us going anywhere soon. We've got more on our books than ever. We're continuing for the foreseeable future.
This group of people that are enthusiastic, they're passionate, and they work with a spirit for. So first of all, I wish there was no need for this type of charity. However, there is a need, you guys have bridged the need, and carry on the great work and say at some stage we would hope that there is absolutely no need for this. Until then, thank you and keep on and do the good work.
My message to the volunteers is a huge thank you. You're all brilliant people. You're so committed and dedicated. We're really, really lucky to have you, and I don't feel that I say thank you enough, but I wanted everybody to know that they're really appreciated. Their efforts really make a big difference. They do an amazing job.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Woodley Lunch Bunch. Well done everyone involved there. I've seen them a number of times over the last few years doing their work, and they really do a fantastic amount of work, so well done everyone there. The third award tonight goes to a local gentleman. I hope he doesn't mind me saying. He's a nonagenarian, which is easy for me to say, who was instrumental in setting up Woodley Bowling Club 60 years ago and has remained an integral part of the club's success over the past 6 decades. He's a real character, so let's hear his story.
I'm Steve Treves. I'm the treasurer of the Woodley Bowling Club. Woodley Bowling Club this year is celebrating its 60th anniversary. Peter is, I think nowadays, the only living original member of the club, and I just thought it would be a lovely fitting tribute for someone who's dedicated so much time to the club to receive some sort of recognition and award.
My father used to play for Power Park, and I used to go down there, poke my head over the fence, and thought I'd never play that game. Load of old men. Anyway, I was walking down the fence and old Alex said to me, "Come on in." And I've been in ever since.
You soon get to know Peter. He's often up here. When I first started here, I was bowling out on the green, just having a little bit of practice. Peter was in the clubhouse, saw me out there practicing, and rather than go home, he stopped, played a few ends with me. Next minute his phone's ringing, and it was Viv, wanted to know where he was, because apparently he should have been home about half an hour ago.
See, bowls can be serious, where you've got the type of person that goes out, they've got to win everything. But down that club, we've always been, we win, we lose, end of story.
You know, he's one of the founder members, helped build the clubhouse.
When you play bowls, you have tea. And we used to go over in the sports centre down there. Then someone said one day, we'll build our own. And we built it ourselves basically. I remember a load of us digging out the foundations of the pavilion.
Another chap, Norman Mills, who was vertically challenged, shall we say. And Peter used to often say when they were digging the footings, they used to always have to check that Norman was still with them when they left, and that they hadn't left him in the footings. All the members here love Peter to bits. He's a real character. He's held numerous positions within the club, including president of the club.
What haven't I taken on? Well, I've been secretary. I was chairman. We were the cleaners down there for years, weren't we, Viv?
He's just a lovable fella. I think the other thing, I mean, it's not really just all Peter. I mean, Viv, lovely character. They've been married over 60 years. Everyone looks forward to seeing them in this club.
You lived down here once and you started to build the new one.
The pavilion, yeah. Building the damn thing.
And I never saw him.
I knew, no, let's be fair, Viv. I wasn't the only one.
He doesn't realise, I think, the contribution he actually makes to the club. How much everyone loves to see him and Viv at the club.
Gun in the gates. A success story for me. I just like it down there. I still go down there. I was down there last night.
I can't think of a better tribute in this year when Woodley celebrates its 60th anniversary to actually give someone who's a founder member and help build the club and see it move forward to get an award for his work in the community and for the club.
I have to thank my family, really, because I spent more time down there than I did up here.
He epitomises everything about the club. We're not just a bowling club, we are a very friendly club, and I think Peter and Viv are now lifelong members of the club, and long may that continue.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Peter Hawkins. Unfortunately, I try and keep those videos down to about 4.5 minutes long, but Peter spoke for about 16 minutes. And it was all cracking stuff. So if you want the unedited version, do ask me and I'll send it to you. But thank you so much for taking the time, Peter. It was wonderful. So our last award, our 110th award tonight, is our special Mayor's Award. So every year, the town mayor gets to select a special recipient for award based on who they've seen in the community doing some exceptional work. This award comes from the last municipal year, so that was 2023 to 24, when our previous mayor, Councillor Janet Sartorial, was mayor. So what I'm going to now do is hand over to Janet, who will come up and introduce her award winner.
This year I've nominated a couple who have been in Woodley just under 2 years to start up their business. As soon as they came here, they started to set out to make community the heart of what they do, and they continue to do so. Unfortunately, they are not here tonight, so I would love to them to hear what we want to say about them. It is, and my award is to Shane and Leanne, who are licensees of the Good Companions in Woodley. So from November last year to January this year, Shane and Leanne provided a free soup kitchen at the pub. On Christmas Day and Boxing Day, in collaboration with Lunch Bunch and Share, our local charities, they sent out over 120 Christmas dinners and with celebration boxes and with presents for all the children. And for that outstanding contribution to the community, I'm delighted to award them this year's Mayor's Award. Yes. I'll make sure this is passed on to them.
So I think a big, let's have one more big round of applause for everyone who's won tonight. And obviously we look forward to celebrating, hopefully with you all afterwards, with wine and cheese. Not so easy to launch. Right, thank you. Right, now we'll head on to the more formal elements of the meeting, which is the town meeting, held every year, and so I'm going to hand over to our current Mayor and Chairman, Councillor Juliet Anderson.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome everybody. I'm sure you'll just join me in saying how wonderful those awards were and how actually they make you feel very proud to be from Woodley, and I certainly do feel very proud to be from Woodley, and also very proud to be your Mayor for this year. So, good evening, a very warm welcome from me, and we move now into the formal town meeting element of tonight's event. The town meeting is a formal meeting, which must be held by all town and parish councils annually, and unlike other council meetings, which are particularly for councillors, the town meeting is for electors living within the area, which is many of you, which is great. It is your opportunity to find out about and question us on council activities, and we'll have the opportunity to do that at the end. In the past few years, we have given this town meeting over to a specific focus, and we found that has worked really well for our community, so that they really get to look at what we're doing in depth rather than sort of at that superficial level. And this year we're really focusing on the climate emergency, which I'm sure, given the weather of the last month, it is top of everybody's agenda. Shortly we'll hear a presentation from Wokingham Borough Council and our own Deputy Town Clerk on this. But before that, just a couple of bits of business that we need to cover, so please bear with us for a little bit. So firstly, Matthew, have we received any apologies for this evening's meeting?
We've received apologies from Councillors Jewell, Swaddle, Holmes, Gilder, Singh, Kennedy, Bellow, Son and Brown.
Gosh, thank you very much. And a lot of that is because there is a clash with another meeting at the Borough Council. So some of those people would have been here this evening, but just unfortunately are unable to be here. Thank you, those have been noted. The second item is simply to note the minutes from last year's meeting, which was included in the published agenda. So hopefully, if you want to see those, you absolutely can. So without any further ado, we'll move on to the climate emergency presentations. So I'd really like to welcome these two guys over here, which is Mayree Adams and Resh Thorpe from Wokingham Borough Council's Climate Emergency Team. And these two people have been wonderful. And they've been working with us for the last few months, really helping us to collaborate and see how we can advance that within Woodley. And we've got some joint aims that we're hoping to meet, but we really wanted you to hear from them this evening. So without any further ado, I'll hand you over to them, and then we'll see where we go after that. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Mary Adams, I'm Climate Emergency Service Manager at Wokingham Borough Council, and this is Resh Thorpe, who's the Engagement Project Officer in the Climate Emergency Team. So it's really great to be here. Thank you for inviting us, and it's been so lovely to hear so it feels special to be here. So tonight, as we've said, we're going to talk a bit about climate emergency and talk to you a bit about the impacts of it and look at the kind of why we are looking at the council. We're also going to look at the kind of things we're doing, and that's at different levels, so at the organisational, community and individual level, and Matt's going to speak a bit about what's happening at the town council level. So on the slide here you'll see the kind of stripes at the top of the slide, and there's no words, no numbers, no graphs, it's just vertical bars. And that the stripes indicate the progressive change of our temperature in the UK. And we as a team think this is a really powerful image. It kind of highlights that urgency that we need to recognise this and do something about it. So these stripes were developed by Professor Ed Hawkins at the University of Reading in 2018, and I've actually on the next slide there should be a video, and he's going to talk with his colleague a bit more about the stripes.
I'm Dr. Ella Gilbert and I'm a climate scientist.
I'm Professor Ed Hawkins and I'm a climate scientist. Sometimes climate science is complicated.
Which is why my colleague Ed Hawkins created these warming stripes that show how Earth's temperatures have changed from 1850 up to the present day.
They show in one single image that our world is heating up.
Each stripe represents the average temperature of a single year, and together they show changing temperatures through time.
The blue years are the coldest years, the reds are the hottest.
Overall, the picture is clear. Our whole planet is getting hotter. Starting at 1850, we see mainly cold blue years.
And as we go forward through time up to the present day, the stripes get redder and darker. Our planet is warming everywhere.
It's happening in every country,
over every sea,
and deep into the oceans too. However, all is not lost.
We all have a great opportunity and a responsibility to be part of the next global revolution.
A revolution that tackles climate change in any way we can to make our world a better place.
To make meaningful changes, we need more people to talk about climate and understand it. Go to showstripes.info and download the stripes for your country, your state and your cities. Then please show your stripes and start some conversations about climate. And I've been delighted to see how many people have used these stripes all across the world.
I'm Dr. Ella.
Yeah, so as Ed Hawkins talked about, is that we can see with those stripes the temperature is getting warmer. So what does that mean? And as we can see within our local environment that the weather is changing, we are seeing hotter and drier summers, and we are seeing warmer and wetter winters. As well as that, we're seeing more extreme weather events. All of the UK's 10 warmest years on record have occurred since 2002, and severe heat waves like the one in summer 2022 are now 30 times more likely to happen due to climate change. So the impact of this means we're seeing more floods, we're seeing more storms, we're seeing more heat waves, and that means that can impact on our building, it can impact on our infrastructure, it can impact on our transport, it can impact on health, especially our young and our elderly citizens, and also it can have financial implications, so it can lead, whether that's at the individual or at the organisational level. There's some photos on here, and the top left one, that's Sandford Lane, and then the bottom one there, that's Winnersh Crossroads. So just examples of locally how we're seeing those kind of more extreme weather events. But there is hope though, and what we feel we have the power to do something, we can act, and not only do we have the power, we have a responsibility for our future generations. We held a number in 2022 at Wokingham. There was a consultation event which brought in different community from different areas of the borough. And as part of that, there was a dream created for Woking Borough, what that looks like. So I'm just going to read that to you now. Our dream is for a carbon neutral Woking Borough, where our community would breathe clean air and enjoy clean and green biodiverse spaces. People would walk, wheel, scoot or cycle, use accessible public transport and low emission vehicles. Homes, businesses, places of work and leisure would be low carbon and energy efficient, powered by renewables and use technologies that pave the way forward for future generations. Woking would be an inclusive and diverse community where everyone can play their part in contributing towards a low carbon future. So hopefully that the idea of that kind of sits well with everyone. And I think not only when we talk about low carbon lifestyles is there the benefit to the environment, there's also a lot of other benefits. There's a video on the next slide, and this is from the Grantham Institute. So this is a centre within Imperial College, and they look at climate change and education. And they've created a video on the co-benefits of reducing carbon. So I'll play that to you now.
Our world is warming, but taking action on climate change can make all of our lives better, and here's how. Improving the energy efficiency of our homes helps to alleviate poverty by making it cheaper for everyone to keep themselves warm. It also reduces the risk of illnesses like asthma and pneumonia and saves the NHS money. Electric vehicles reduce air pollution and help all of us to breathe clean air even in city centres. Cycling and walking more also reduce pollution and improve our health, while a diet with less meat is lower in saturated fats and reduces our chance of getting heart disease and certain types of cancer. Growth in the low-carbon economy creates jobs, while climate action reduces the risk of extreme weather events which may otherwise cause disruption and increase the cost of our food and our insurance premiums. Energy efficiency and renewable energy make the UK more secure by reducing our reliance on imported oil and gas. And on the international level, climate action reduces the risk of conflicts emerging over access to resources. And of course, action on climate change reduces the damage done to the natural environment and to vulnerable species like polar bears, helping to preserve the natural environment for our children and grandchildren. We still have time to avoid the worst consequences of climate change, and there are so many benefits to taking action now. Our research contributes towards a cleaner, greener, fairer future. So join our mailing list or follow us on social media for the latest news and commentary on climate change and the environment.
So just quickly, just a quick show of hands, does anyone in the room know what the council are doing around tackling climate emergency? Yeah. So not many, it looks like one, I think. So that's good, because I'm here to tell you a bit about what we're doing. So in 2019, Woking Borough Council declared a climate emergency. And following that, there was a climate emergency action plan that was created. So this is a strategic document that contains a number of different measures and policies, all about how we can, as a borough, become a carbon neutral borough by 2030. The Climate Emergency Action Plan, we call it the CEAP, it lays out over 100 actions across these 10 priority areas. So there's a lot within it, and there's a lot to do. It's a dynamic document, so we look at it on a regular basis to see what we need to, what's happening at the global or the national or the local level, through policies or new technology that's being introduced. And each year, although the updates and the status of where we're at is published and is made public each September. But we do have a climate emergency overview and scrutiny committee, so this is where borough councillors from different parties meet on a regular basis to review that CEAP and scrutinise it. And members of the public are also welcome to submit questions and attend that meeting to question that our progress with the CEAP. So just to give you a bit of a flavour on some of the stuff we're doing, what is contained within the CEAP. So I mentioned we've got over 100 actions, so I'm not going to talk about them all. But there's just 4 here that I'm going to just let you know about what's happening. So We've got the switch on date confirmed for the Barking Solar Farm, so this is the council's first solar farm. There was it was looking like it might be 2037 before it could get connected to the grid, but that has been brought forward. It looks like renewable energy will be generated by 2026. We've also got the Climate Ambassador scheme that we're working on, so this is in collaboration with the University of Reading, and this is linked to the Department for Education. They have a strategy, a sustainability strategy, which is all about getting schools nationally to have a climate emergency action plan and a sustainability lead by 2025. So Wokingham Council working really closely with Reading University for this scheme, and the Climate Ambassador scheme is about identifying experts within the community and linking them up with schools to help them create those climate action plans. We've also got the new Climate Emergency Hub. So this is an online part of the Wokingham Borough Council website. It's lots of information for residents, for businesses, for community groups, just sharing information about what different groups can do to help reduce carbon. And we really recognise that underpinning a lot of the work we do is the engagement, so it's making people aware about the climate change, making people aware about what they can do, and that's what kind of drove us to create that online hub. And then finally we've got John from Wokingham there, so he took part in the Solar Together scheme last year. So this scheme is a scheme that's open to residents who are interested in purchasing solar panels. It's a scheme that it means that residents can buy cheaper solar panels or more competitively priced solar panels because it's economies of scale. The scheme is a Berkshire-wide scheme, so it means anyone that's interested will show their interest, and then suppliers can provide a more competitive price. And we've had some really good feedback from people that have had those solar panels installed. So it's a challenge. It's not, climate change isn't statutory. We don't have any funding. So we're constantly trying to look and think how we can work cleverly with the resources we've got, but we really recognise there's lots of groups out there that have similar ambitions, and that's where we're working really closely. We're starting to develop this working relationship with Woodley Town Council to see actually that we have similar ambitions. Let's work together. Let's see how we can, work together on this challenge. And that leads me nicely on to the targets.
Thank you, Mary. That's brilliant. So I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of what's happened at the council over the last few years, at the town council level. So similar to Wokingham Borough Council in 2019, the town council has declared a climate emergency. For you thinking what that actually means, a climate emergency declaration is an action an organisation can take to acknowledge that the world is in a climate crisis. It might sound sort of unimportant to make such a declaration, but as of this month, nearly 2,500 organisations around the world have made such a declaration, of which 600 are in the UK. So it is an important step for any organisation to acknowledge that the world is in a climate crisis, and we, along with everyone, have a joint duty to do something about that. So our declaration, when it was made by councillors, has three main undertakings. The first is as an organisation to aim to get to a carbon neutral status by 2030. It declares that we will actively participate and fully engage in Wokingham's climate change strategy. And it also commits to developing a local action plan to support Wokingham's climate change strategy and our own. So that really leads us as a council into two main focus areas. What can we do as an organisation to limit our impact of our activity as a company, as an organisation? And also, what can we do to promote climate emergency to residents in the area and to help residents in order to limit their own impact? So just briefly to kind of cover a few things that we have been doing as a council over the last 5 years. We've converted to green energy, so all our energy supply now is purchased through green energy suppliers. Hopefully most of you will have seen, if you walk around the park, we have solar panels on the Leisure Centre, we have solar panels on the Oakwood Centre, and that generates a huge amount of electricity which gets used by these buildings and goes back to the grid. We've introduced LED lighting into nearly all of our buildings. We have some more work to do here in the Oakwood Centre, but the majority of lighting where we can has been changed to LED. We've had more of a biodiversity focus in terms of our actions. We have obviously had our green flag for the park, which the council's had 6 years now, 6 years in a row. I believe we're still the only park in Wokingham to have a green flag, and obviously that can't be achieved without the support of all residents, especially the Friends of Woodford Park and all the work that they do to maintain that. We have a community garden project later in the year to improve the orchard on the memorial ground, and also all our tenders now for all of our projects, all of our purchases now include a requirement to have an environmental policy. We've introduced rainwater harvesting at our buildings where we can, and a few more buildings are due to come online, so that's where we can collect water. Again, Friends of Woodford Park hopefully use most of that to be able to water the beds and everything like that, but obviously that reduces our reliance on mains water. In our parks, we've introduced low-intensity land management, a bit of a long word for basically we don't mow certain areas. But the purpose of that is it really helps wildlife, it really helps encourage different sort of flora and fauna to grow and live around our areas, but also it reduces that impact of our activities. And finally, we've improved our own recycling in buildings over the last 5 years massively. And even in this building recently, we've moved to a very small single general waste bin, trying to encourage nearly up to 90% of our waste being recycled. So that's what we've done as a council in terms of an organisation about what we can do. So what have we done to kind of try and promote it to residents? Now this is something that I suppose over the last 5 years hasn't been our main focus, but we've done a few things and it's something that's definitely what we're going to do in the future. So we too have developed a climate emergency action plan. That is on our website and it is presented to every one of our strategy and resources meetings. That has a number of actions in it that we can take and we're committed to making sure that we go through all of those actions and achieve them. We too have introduced a climate emergency information hub on our website. So very, very similar to Wokingham's. I'm sure it'll have a lot of the same information, but wherever a resident might go, whether they go to Wokingham's site or our site, you can find information about what you might be able to do. Very easy little things, slightly bigger projects you might undertake to be able to reduce your impact. We've dedicated 2 of these meetings now to climate emergency, again to try and get that message out to residents as best as possible to show the commitment we've got and how we want to work with residents to achieve it. And we've also dedicated one of our editions of the Herald, which goes to all residents, over 10,000 houses in Woodley, to promote climate emergency. So what are our kind of current focus and the future plans? There are still a number of smaller projects that we're kind of continuing to undertake. We're continuing to roll out LED lighting in all our buildings. As and when our maintenance equipment comes to their end of the life, when we're looking at renewals, we're looking at electric versions of those. Where they are effective and efficient and reasonable, we will move to electric. We're looking at introducing solar panels on other buildings where possible, and we know that there's scope for that. And we're also introducing a number of segregated recycling bins, aiming for all of our parks over the next couple of years. We've also recently committed to undertake a carbon footprint assessment of our activities. So we're engaging with a company that will be able to look into all our activities and using a nationally recognised set of criteria will assess exactly what our carbon footprint is. Not only that, they will be able to work with us to target places where we can achieve reductions. That's a key piece of work for us to undertake because as a commitment we've said we will aim to be carbon neutral by 2030. We don't know how much carbon we're using. We can't possibly say whether we're hitting that or not. So we're really excited over the next sort of 3 to 6 months to get that information back and be able to promote where we are and know exactly where we're going to need to go. And finally, what's really been kicking off this year is obviously our work with Woking Borough Council. Obviously, Woking Borough Council have a much larger area to work on, and we feel that there's obviously a load of expertise at borough level which we need to harness to help us to get decent information out to our residents. So anything we can do together. And as part of that, we are committed in November this year, we're going to be running a Climate Action Week. So we're going to have a number of events that we're currently planning to take place to coincide with the COP Week that will take place here, other locations in Woodley. There'll be talks, there'll be webinars, we'll get schools involved in activities and things, and hopefully we'll be able to bring the community together with a number of activities to promote climate awareness. So that's where we're at, and what I'm going to do now is hand back to Resh this time to give you more information on what Woking are doing.
Thanks, Matt. Hello everybody, it's lovely to meet you today. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the actions that we can all do to take part and reduce carbon emissions effectively and work towards our carbon borough. So there's a saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Well, we need to go fast and far. As Mary mentioned, Woking Borough Council have an ambitious climate emergency action plan, but unfortunately, like other local authorities, we only hold real influence over approximately a third of the emissions that are released within our local area. So our climate emergency action plan contains actions to help us look at that third of emissions. But this is a significant amount, yet it still leaves the majority of emissions beyond our immediate control or influence, with the rest relying either on the choices of our local community or on decisions made in national government. So it's therefore key that as part of our work and as part of our action plan that we engage with and empower our community, our borough, to help meet our vision. So effectively engaging with the community and changing behaviours in a positive way, we hope to make people feel invested in the climate issues that we're facing, consequently seeing themselves as being part of the solution and helping us as a local authority, but helping each other working towards achieving our dream of being a carbon neutral borough by 2030. The climate emergency gives us an incredible opportunity and an opening to change the way we live for the better. So for example, almost every action that we have to take, from boosting walking and cycling to creating warmer, cheaper to heat homes, will improve our health. And making these changes within our community improves the quality of life, not just for ourselves, but for everybody. There are well-established links between the environment and physical and mental well-being. We know that taking part in environmental action can create a range of tangible personal benefits, from saving money, reducing waste, gaining new knowledge and skills, but also to a greater sense of belonging and connection, and of course reducing CO2 emissions along the way. But we also recognise that our community may face challenges and barriers to climate change, but by taking small steps at a local level, hopefully people can, and they do, make a difference through their actions and their individual choices. So by focusing on what climate change means for specific places, groups, community areas, we can start to begin to shift our view of tackling climate change from a challenge which is really overwhelming to something that we can tackle. By individually taking small steps, we can help culminate in a significant change overall for our borough. So, can one individual really make a difference? So, most of the time, we know how much things approximately cost without looking at the price tag. If you go into the supermarket, you're kind of just automatically picking up your potatoes and your eggs and your bacon, that sort of thing. Our financial sense of proportion allows us to make good choices. So our carbon instinct needs to be similarly attuned to our everyday decision making and our purchases. But unlike money, we're not used to thinking about carbon costs. It's much harder to tell how much our carbon footprint is for something that we're buying because we can't visualise it. So we're going to find out more in this quiz. Okay, so let's break it up a little bit here from the top. What is the average carbon footprint per person in the UK? Is it A, 1.5 tonnes, have a giant balloon and bag up a ton of CO2 or carbon emissions, because it doesn't include other things, doesn't just carbon dioxide, it would be as big as this room. So how many tons, so if that's 1 ton of carbon emissions, how many tons do you think the average person in the UK emits in a year? So let's have a show of hands. So who thinks it's 1.5 tons?
What is that? Is that in a year, in a day, or a month,
In a
or
year.
what?
In a year.
In a year.
In a year. Yeah, in a year. So 1.5 tons? 6 tons? Are you there for 6 tons? And 12 tons. Okay. So about 10 years ago was about 12 tons. So there is hope. The answer is 6 tons. So the average carbon footprint per person in the UK per year is 6 tons. So we are reducing it, but not enough. Not enough to really have the effects that we want to see in reducing the temperatures globally. So the answer is 6 tonnes. So the CO2, you'll notice there's a little E on the end of that, and you might see that in quite a lot of literature or research, and you're like, what does that mean? It just means it's the carbon dioxide equivalent, so it's a lump term to describe all the different greenhouse gases in one common unit, because it's not just carbon dioxide that can increase temperatures and greenhouse emissions. So you tend to see it in tonnes, but with a little E on the side, so it's kind of functioning all that together. So according to the Office of National Statistics, based on the latest data, the average carbon footprint is about 6 tonnes. Emissions from households are the largest single contributor to UK emissions. In 2021, emissions related to consumer expenditure, heating our homes, travelling, contributed to 135 million tonnes of CO2 emissions, which is 26% of the total emissions of the UK. So if you stepped onto the scales in the morning and you weighed a tonne, you'd be very concerned. But in terms of carbon, is a tonne a lot? Or is it a drop in the ocean when you consider how vast the planet is? So I'm going to put it into perspective for you. So for 6 tonnes, you would need to drive 11,000 miles in the average car, so it's an average fuel car, to emit 6 tonnes of carbon emissions. So that's halfway around the world. You'd have to eat over 500 beef steaks or 2,000 camemberts. Please don't try that at home, which you'd like to. If miles driven or food isn't helping you to visualise 6 tonnes, how about the equivalent weight? So it's the same as 9 dairy cows, 5,000 bottles of wine, or 12 million plastic straws. So although 6 tonnes may not sound much, but when you consider a population of over 67 million people in the UK alone, nearing 8 billion people worldwide, all of a sudden, individual impact starts to mean something. If everyone in the UK reduced their carbon footprint by as little as 100 kilograms, so not tonnes, 100 kilograms annually, which is about the same as driving 180 less miles in your car, eating 8 fewer steaks, we'd be 6.8 million tonnes of carbon lighter in the UK alone. So, carrying on with our quiz then. How many grams, so we're looking at grams now, of carbon emissions does ironing a crumpled shirt generate? Is it 8 grams, 14 grams, or 40 grams? So show hands for 8. Okay, 14, a few more there, and 40. So those of you said C, 40 grams, you're correct. So ironing 5 shirts a week for a year is about the same as a 7-mile drive in an average car. So maybe those iron-free shirts might be a good investment, and also not ironing your bed sheets is probably the perfect excuse to reduce your carbon footprint. So just pack it away. Don't need it. It's savings. So what is the carbon footprint of using a gas hob to boil with the lid off, 220 grams, 340. Can you do that? And C, 520. Oh, okay. The answer is B, 340. So you could reduce that significantly by firstly buying your potatoes that are locally grown, or at least in the UK, grown in the UK, rather than being shipped all the way from Cyprus. Reducing it further by cutting them into small pieces and using the lid on the pan to boil gently rather than a ferocious heat. Okay, all of those small changes to your cooking process will reduce the carbon emissions. So the biggest part of the footprint when you're cooking food is the cooking process itself. So for further reductions, you could even consider investing in an induction hob or microwaving your potatoes. So I'm just going to do a few did you know. So did you know that insulating your loft can pay back the equivalent of 40 tonnes of emissions over a 40-year period, about a tonne a year, and reduce your energy costs at the same time? Each deforested hectare is equivalent to driving a car approximately 50 times around the world. So obviously, trees absorb carbon emissions, so every hectare that's lost is obviously impacting our planet. A full-on Christmas feast and celebrations could cost you 4 months of your annual carbon footprint, and that includes the food waste that's going into the ground. So maybe this Christmas having a little think about whether you need as much as you're buying. And driving a mile in an average-sized fuel-run car contributes to 530 grams of carbon emissions. Those miles soon add up. So a congested drive of the same mile, stuck in traffic, 3 times higher emissions. So that quick run to the shops, during the school run, could you walk, could you cycle? Maybe have a little think. So back to our original question, can one individual really make a difference? And the answer is absolutely. So even though all of us are such a small part of the change that is needed, if we take action and consciously try to live a low carbon lifestyle, we can create a new normal, a new mindset, a new habit. Okay, so by finding ways to live better and with less impact, we show those around us as well what is possible. We've seen what happens when ordinary people take a stand. While I'm not asking you all to be like Greta Thunberg, there are still many ways everyone can help the environment. This isn't about a few people being absolutely perfect. We're not asking you to be perfect, but a lot of people making small changes, collectively driving the change and making an impact for our borough as well. Everybody has the power to influence important areas of their lives. Everybody, though, is on a completely different journey. But we can and we do all make a difference. So, for example, as a community, as a country as a whole, we have taken 10% out of the demand of energy. So congratulations, give yourselves a pat on the back. How, do you ask, have you managed to do that? And that's the simple switch to LED lighting. So it's a perfect example of a small change that everybody's got used to doing, but yet it's made such a big impact. So whether you're at home or you're at work or while you travel, small changes can add up. So in brief, to reduce your carbon footprint, try to reduce the amount of energy you're using. Do you need everything switched on? Do you need to be looking at your phone while the TV's on at the same time and you're charging nothing because it's still switched on at the plug? Can you, what's where I am now? Sorry about that. Yeah, can you eat fewer animal products? Can you maybe swap some of those meat meals in a week to 1 or 2 vegetarian-based ones? Can you shop locally? Can you buy produce that's grown locally, eat seasonally, rather than buying strawberries in December, for example? Can you travel a bit smarter? We're not asking you to get rid of your cars because, you know, we're in a semi-rural borough. We get people out to travel in their cars. We're not that greatly connected to somewhere like a big city. But do you need to make every journey in your car? Could you swap some of those journeys for a walk or get on the bike? And can you reduce your waste? Trying to put your food waste into your food bin, stopping it in going into landfill, reduces methane emissions dramatically. Recycling more so that it's turned over better. Trying to reduce the amount of rubbish that's going in your general waste in the first place. So for more ideas on how to reduce your footprint, as Mary mentioned earlier, we've got a climate emergency hub which went live a couple of weeks ago. If you go onto Woking Borough Council site and type in climate emergency, or just type in Woking climate emergency, it will come straight up. And it will take you to this homepage, and as you can see, there's lots of different sections and pages with a wealth of information and other sites as well, because it's not just us telling people, there's lots of information out there, lots of advice, and sometimes it's quite hard to go and find it, but we're hoping that this hub gives you a place to actually go in and have a look. So if you're trying to look at ways to reduce your emissions with your food or by the way you travel, you can go to the residents page and all the information will be there for you. You can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter. We have a climate emergency monthly newsletter that goes out and it talks about a lot of work that we're doing as a local authority, a lot of the events that go around the borough that you might like to take part in, but also useful ways in which you can also reduce your carbon emissions. You can also take part in our Planet Pledge campaign and challenge yourselves to make a promise throughout the year to help tackle climate emergency. And if you also want more information on our climate emergency plan, it is quite a big read. It's a bit of a beast of a document. It's about 100 pages. So if you want a good nighttime read, then definitely go there. We are hoping to have a simplified version which kind of gives you a bit of a high-level overview, which will come later on in the year, so do look out for that. But in the meantime, that does detail all of our actions and our progress as well. We release a progress report every year, which goes through full council for approval, and then it's publicly available, so you can see as a borough how we are progressing with reducing our emissions and getting to our 2030 target. But we also want to hear from you. This isn't just about the council, what we're doing, what we'd like you to do. We want to hear from you. What things are you doing? How could we do things better? Have you been doing something within your community? Woodley seems a fantastic community, I've got to say, within the borough. You know, just from seeing the community awards today, how everybody's well connected and supports each other. Is there ways that you think, or ideas that you can do to help reduce emissions or persuade your neighbours to? Or would you like to have your say about the work that we're doing and constructively change the work that we're doing at our overview and scrutiny committee? You can do that as well. And finally, you can contact us at the Climate Emergency Team for further information on any questions you have. So I'm just going to round up very quickly. So our aim as a council is to ensure that everybody within our borough lives, works and studies in the borough, understands our journey to a carbon neutral future and is equipped with the knowledge, the tools and the support required to make their contribution to society and our community, and to take ownership individually as well in reducing our carbon emissions. Through our CEAP, our hope is for every resident to understand how their lifestyle choices impact our borough and to help play their part in contributing towards a low carbon future in the way that they live, work and travel. For every business and organisation within our borough to operate more sustainably. And for every school to understand how to be sustainable and resilient to the impacts of climate change and educate and inspire the younger generations to live sustainable lives. This is who we're doing it for at the end of the day, because the planet is getting warmer, but it's the children and future generations who are going to be impacted the most by it. We as a council will lead by example by championing the actions of our Climate Emergency Action Plan, but also collaboratively working with our parishes, with our town councils and internally, and with other partners like the university and other partners that we have to reach our dream of carbon neutrality by 2030. So thank you for listening to us today. I hope you found it informative, and I think there'll be an opportunity to ask us some questions. Please be gentle with us. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you very much, Amy and Rash. And this is really an opportunity to ask any questions you might have about either the Woodley Town Council approach or the Woking approach, and we'll try and answer it. So please feel free to put your hands up and we'll do it.
Hello. Oh, there I am. Sorry. I've got a mic, so don't expect me to run too far though.
Hello there.
I'm just trying to see.
Question I've got is you're talking about working with schools, and I think children generally are very receptive to these ideas, and they've got a really great understanding. Sadly, I think a lot of parents haven't quite got the same understanding, and they're making very short journeys, driving to school. You've only got to look around all the schools in Woodley, picking up time, and it's mayhem and chaos, and people. Obviously, I accept some people are making that as a part of a longer journey on the way home from work or on the way to work, but I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done on educating the parents rather than the children.
Yes, absolutely. So we do a lot of engagement work with schools, and you're completely correct. Children get it. They absolutely understand it. There's no denying that climate change isn't happening. With the work we do with the University and Department of Education, as Mary mentioned earlier, by 2025 every school has to have their own climate action plan, sustainability needs in place. That action plan has to detail how they're going to try and reduce emissions as a school environment and an education setting. So that includes behaviour change with the school community, so parents, governors alike, teachers, not only educating the children but also looking about their green spaces, about active travel to school, trying to reduce those emissions through that. So there's lots of work that's happening, and it will ramp up as those schools start to embed those climate action plans, but it's quite early days, so it officially launches in the next couple of months. But yes, absolutely, there's lots of progress to be made. And the one thing with children is they're great ambassadors, because if a child comes home to you and is telling you that you need to start changing your behaviours for a good way, it's quite hard to say no, you know, and not get into that car, or why are you chucking that piece of plastic in the waste and not recycling it? So it's embedding those behaviours from a really young age as well, and for teachers to inspire those students within their settings as well, so that they're spreading the message wider. So yes.
That we really recognise the messenger that you communicate tuition behaviour is really important, and actually us from the council communicating to a different group, you know, it's not going to land as well. So actually having the children say to the parents and their families and their siblings, this is what you should be doing, we think that's a really key route in, and that's why we can work with the climate action plan with the schools. We really hope that will help get the message out to parents.
52 years ago, Ashenbury Park was one great landfill site. In the light of the gas price rises 2 years ago, have you reviewed the possibility of energy harvesting from the methane emissions from that park?
Right, well, I'm no gas expert, I've got to say, but we do have a biodiversity section within our climate action plan that contains loads of information, but that particular question I wouldn't be able to answer for you today, I'm afraid, but I'm happy to take it back and pass it to the relevant team.
I think there are ways to kind of how we generate energy. So we have an energy team within the Woking Council, and yeah, we can pass it to them and make sure that get back to that.
Thank you. May I email you?
Yes, you can email at climateemergency@woking.gov.uk and we'll pass that on.
Glad to hear you talking about children and educating them with regard to recycling. But is there anything the council or anyone can do to discourage, and I think it's mainly young people, from discarding cans, bottles, vapes, I walk around Woodley a lot most days. I've so far almost collected from our staple 2,000 cans, bottles, or 60 or 70 vapes, which I've recycled. Is there anything we've done? Any education? Anything the council can do? They can get onto schools about.
I think it partly is wrapped up in the climate action plan. So as Resh was talking about, these climate action plans where we want to work with schools, we want climate ambassadors to work with schools to create these climate action plans. That kind of view on litter and sort of dropping it.
Yes, I know we have litter pickers who do a great job, but there are so many cans, bottles, vapes.
Yeah, so actually...
I picked up 20 today just walking around waiting for school.
Yeah, so it's, I think with the climate action plans with schools, I think that potentially would be incorporated into those conversations. So it is being developed at the moment. It's what they look like, we're not sure, but we can definitely take that on and talk to schools. That, you know, this is something that we should include and talk about in that behaviour change around kind of litter dropping.
Well, thank you very much.
We also have our waste team as well within the council. They've got an engagement, a team that go out to schools, but not just to schools, but to the community about how to recycle, and also probably new changes that are coming in as well. But hopefully messaging will embed as well as the sort of campaigns that you'll see on social media and through leaflets and things like that. But yes, I agree. I mean, it is the behaviour change is the hardest thing to do. As soon as it's happened, it will follow on. But it's convincing people to do the right thing. And for every person that does the right thing, there'll be somebody who's not doing the right thing. And it's about kind of raising that awareness. But it's also that community awareness as well, to kind of role model as well, the right behaviours as well. So yes, I completely agree that, trying to do.
I also found out that Waitrose will actually take disposable vapes.
Yeah, and vapes are actually a big issue for the recycling centre. So where our waste goes to RE3, so that goes to Reading and to the Bracknell site from Woking goes to sort of split across both. Vapes have been responsible for a number of fires within the centre, so they've actually had to shut down the machinery that sorts all the rubbish and the waste because of vape, like the batteries within the vape has exploded. So there is a campaign as well about not disposing of vapes correctly and in the correct manner, and not putting them just in general waste as well. And that's the thing with batteries as well. So it is an issue, and it's becoming a bit more of a, not just for our local authority, but for other authorities around the country, are kind of raising awareness to national government, saying, look, this is an issue with these vapes. So apart from banning vapes, obviously for youngsters, that's obviously coming in with legislation, it's about the disposal of them as well that's causing problems. So I suspect at some point, hopefully there'll be some national changes coming in for that as well.
Just one. Any other questions on climate? Yes.
Yeah, you seem to be implying that CO2 is a pollutant. How can that be when it's the lifeblood of plants, and without it, and without sufficient CO2, they die, and if they die, then everybody dies. So we need CO2.
Absolutely,
and
we do need CO2.
The warming and increase in CO2 has improved the planet. It's greening, and so when we say you want to be green, well, if you want to be green, you want more CO2. So
the thing is with greenhouse gases, we do need greenhouse gases within our natural environment to sustain life. So that's not just for humans, but it's for plants as well. But it's the amounts of CO2.
So you're saying there's too much now?
There is too much, because we've gone beyond the natural fluctuations and increases of carbon emissions.
Do you know how many parts per million are we on at the moment? You know? Do you know?
Yeah, we're not climate scientists, and we can't.
You are, because you're saying you're discussing the climate science. So you're discussing it, and then you're saying do you not know even how many parts per million CO2 is in the atmosphere?
Not off the top of my head,
you don't.
but
Well,
I think
you
tonight we're
should
here.
do, and I'll tell you what it is. It's probably gone up here because we're in an enclosed space, but out in the normal sort of environment, in the rest behind us, 420 parts per million, right? Now, if that goes up, as it goes up, you will say, oh dear, that's bad, that's going to make it even hotter. In fact, it's saturated now, and although when there's not much to start with years and years ago, that would have had a greenhouse effect. But now, it's like putting another coat of paint on a fence. Once you've got it covered once, you cover it again, but you're wasting time. So it doesn't go up anymore. It'll be a fraction of a degree centigrade. Right? So some of these facts seem to be missing fundamentally. They're very fundamental, this sort of thing. Without CO2, we had it. And what happens is, okay, so I'll tell you how it works, right? Okay, so people may recall, they won't know it, but they'll be familiar with the Little Ice Age, 1600, 1650, something like that, right? Okay, 400 years ago, right? And they'll remember the pictures of people skating.
Sorry, I'm conscious of time with the questions. Sorry, we're not here tonight to have that debate. We know there are people that have that kind of view, and we work really closely with the University of Reading, there's so many climate scientists there, and we kind of use that science to kind of drive the actions that we're doing as part of our climate emergency action plan. So, yeah, I don't want to get into the debate tonight. It doesn't feel like the correct forum.
Okay, well, I won't fill you in with the facts then. Okay, so you have to ignore them.
Do we have any other questions? We've got one over there. I think we've got time for one more, I think, and then we will we'll probably head on to the more general Q&A. So we'll have one more question. Sorry, I'll go as fast as I can. I had ankle surgery 4 months ago.
I'm just thinking forward to Woodley Carnival, which is coming up quite soon. We're a bunch of WASPs, litter pickers, and it breaks my heart every year to see the bottles, cans, rubbish of all sorts, but mainly recyclable things, which are being put into general waste, because we haven't got time with the amount of rubbish to separate everything out. I've seen that the council in their leaflet, the Carnival Committee in their leaflet have got a whole page on rubbish now, which is great, in trying to encourage people to take their picnic things and so on home. But nevertheless, they're spending, I think they said, £1,000 just on the litter part, the litter aspect of the carnival, which is horrific, really. So we're trying to raise money, but we're spending it in that way. So if we could separate the recycling and to have those bins that was mentioned coming in, so that people have the opportunity of separating the recycling and the general waste, I think it would really help a lot, just in that one event.
Shall I answer that?
Yeah.
So not only am I the mayor, but I'm also the deputy chair for the Carnival Committee, which has nothing to do with the council, by the way. It's run by a group of volunteers. So I think we've struggled with recycling for many years, because you're quite right, the cost for those big differ bins is about 1,400. The cost to hire recycling separating bins is 4,000. So we can't afford it, is the bottom line, but we can do everything we can within our power. So the bar this year is going to recycle, and having those bins on the park makes a huge difference. But the biggest thing that we can do is exactly what you name-checked at the beginning, which is ask people who are coming for the evening to take their recycling home with them. And to that end, when people come onto the field in the evening, you'll be given a black bin liner, and we'll be asking you to take your litter home with you and to separate it at home. We rely on WASPs. They're absolutely amazing, and they keep that field safe for children, because people drop glass bottles. which is really dangerous. So we thank you for a start, but also it absolutely goes back to your point about individual responsibility. You know, we can do what we can collectively, and we are absolutely now this year, the bins that we've hired go off to a central point and are sorted. So they are recycled this year. Normally, it just gets shoved into a great big bin and it goes to landfill. But this year we've made a real effort to find a company that will sort it for us, but it has to be individual responsibility as well. So thank you for raising that, I appreciate it. Right, so as we move on to the next bit of the evening, I'd just like you to finally thank Mari and Resh for their fantastic talk this evening, and thank you so much for coming and supporting us over the last few months as well, not just this evening. And you'll be seeing much and thank you for making checking our event in November, which will be a real opportunity to come together as a community over a week-long period. And we're absolutely open to any ideas that you might have for that week. We've got some ideas as the council and as town councillors and as officers, but equally, you know, if you've got some ideas of things you'd like to do, then we'd really like you to be involved. And I'm sure that Sheila and the WASPs really need to be front and centre of that as well, so that would be great. So we're now going to move on to the next part of the evening, which is the opportunity for you guys to have a public session and to ask councillors about anything to do with council activities. So we've got a few people that are hopefully going to be able to help answer some of those questions. So if I could just ask a few people to come down. So Councillor Keith Baker, who's chair of our Strategy and Resources Committee and also leader of the council. Thank you, Keith. Councillor Darren Smith, chairman of our Leisure Services Committee. And Councillor Robert Horskins, who is Deputy Chair of our Planning and Community Committee during 23-24 municipal year. And we also have Kevin over there, Kevin Murray, our Town Clerk, who's on hand as well. Now, I know we have received a few questions in advance, but first I'd like to ask if there are any questions from the floor this evening, and we'll see if we can get those answered for you. Thank you, Matt, for managing the mics.
Thank you. I'll make this as quick as I can because I've got three separate things. Firstly, could we possibly have a ramp at the far end of the library car park? There's only one at the near end. If you've got a trolley or a pram, the pavement is very rough along there. If we had a ramp at the far end, that would be wonderful. Secondly, could we please have a map, or failing that, leaflets in our Herald magazine indicating where all the defibrillators are in Woodley. I was recently on holiday in Swanage and they have a marvellous map up there where marking on where all the defibrillators are. That would be very useful. And thirdly, not all disabilities look like this, i.e. a wheelchair. Is the town council aware of the sunflower lanyard, and could we please work towards making Woodley a hidden disabilities town? There are a few. If you can look into it, or I'd be willing to come and talk to the council about the hidden disability scheme. I'm a member of Christ Church and we are working towards being a sunflower lanyard church. Our Rainbow Cafe, which I'm sure some of you here have used, is already part of the scheme. We are opening the whole church up to the scheme as well. Please, please, could Woodley Town Council consider it? I say I'm willing to come and talk to you more about it if you would like to know more about the hidden disabilities scheme. But many people do use these sunflower lanyards. It's really important that as many places as possible are part of the scheme and displaying the yellow sunflowers. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. And what's your name, Mother?
Brenda McIntosh.
Lovely, thank you, Brenda.
Right, I'm going to try and remember them. The first one, the ramp. That particular car park is owned by Wokingham Borough Council, but what I'm going to ask our town clerk to do is to make a record of that, and Woodley Town Council will then contact relevant officers in Wokingham Borough Council to see if we can get that one done. What was your middle one? Sorry, the second one?
Defibrillator.
Oh yes, defibrillator. That's a great idea. The normal answer to that is there is a website that you go on and it tells you where they are. Unfortunately, that, from what people tell me, that is significantly out of date. So I think it's a great initiative. Yes, the town clerk is actually making a note of it. What we might need to do is do a draft map and then put it out to the residents of Woodley to say, where are the holes? And we will fill those holes on that map. But it's a great idea. In terms of the lanyard, yes, we are fully aware. And my colleague here...
Keith, so I'm on the planning committee and the few other committees, strategy and resources. I actually carry a hidden disability card myself, but I'm embarrassed to wear a lanyard. Isn't that terrible? And you're absolutely right, we should be pushing this out more. I was on holiday myself in Cornwall last month, and I noticed that they actually have the lanyard hanging up where I was checking in, and it said, if you've got any hidden disabilities, please mention it to a member of staff, and we'll do everything we can. So I think that's a brilliant point you've raised, and something we should encourage and publish more. Thank you.
And in terms of the making Woodley a proud town, managing and looking after people with hidden disabilities, I'm very interested in what that entails, because we potentially can pursue that. Again, I'm going to ask our town clerk to contact you directly to get full information.
Yes, brilliant idea.
Because there's no reason why we can't progress that. Woodley Town Council is one of the most progressive town councils in the whole borough, possibly in the whole of Berkshire. And that's the sort of thing, when it's brought to our attention, we want to do because it's the right thing to do.
And it doesn't cost much. It really doesn't.
I suppose just to follow up on that, a couple of years ago we actually took the Sunflower Hidden Disability Scheme to full council, and full council voted for us to sign up to their scheme. So we did do that a couple of years ago. There are some posters around in our buildings, and all staff are given training on that, so they are aware of it, and there's actually an online training module that we get access to as a member, which we can let staff know. But I think from a publicity point of view, and from making sure our buildings is a bit clearer, I'm sure that's something Karen and I can work on and make sure.
We'll take some contact details with that come see it.
Coming. I'm moving fast again. Back to rugby and those sorts of things.
I live on a road junction, and the thermoplastic white lining was recently replaced exactly as before. So can you please ask Wokingham Borough Council to comply in future with the highway code? And please, put on behalf of joggers, walkers, the elderly, cyclists, highway code, please.
Yes, it's Wokingham Borough, so again, I'm looking to our town clerk to record that and we'll report it. If you can afterwards, let him know exactly where you're talking about, because there's a generic question, isn't there, that they should do something that's consistent with the highway code, but there's also your specific example that we can highlight as well, and maybe get the Borough Council to change it.
Thank you. I shall do.
We need to segregate. Is anybody else on this side?
Don't you yet. This is my exercise for the week. I'm happy with this.
I'm not going to sing, don't worry about it. I live very close to the community centre by the car park. When is the council going to look at the areas of traffic? Coolbeck Drive, Wingate Road, Cobham Road, Arundel Road, just to name a few, are basically one-way streets now. The yellow lines are for the benefit of mums picking their kids up, they can park on them. I know it's not just our road, But what about, what are we going to do about this then? It really is an accident waiting to happen down there.
Right,
They
again,
park on the bend, they call the bottom of Corbett, you're on a blind bend all the time. And you get the boy racers that do 35 plus, you're coming the other way, you've got 2 Oaks, and Bob Oak's one of them.
right, I'm going to answer this one again as well, largely because I spent 7 years as a borough councillor, as the executive member responsible for highways. So I've got a bit of background knowledge. It's a working at borough council issue. Again, you can shake your head, but it is. We have no formal authority on what goes on in the highways. I'd love to have it, but we haven't got it. Now, the general issue of something like that, a normal solution is either a single yellow line or a double yellow line, no parking.
Doesn't make any difference, they park on them.
And the problem is, and I've seen this many, many times, and my former colleagues on the Borough Council of all political parties have seen it exactly the same, is people say they want it. When it then goes out to consultation, guess what? The residents turn it down. And that puts the I'm not here to be an apologist for working Borough Council, but it's a practical thing. If the residents collectively don't want yellow lines, then they can't, the Borough Council really can't put them in. And you say if that's not going to help, now I think we all know there are some quite vigorous traffic wardens these days. They're getting more by the day working on Borough Council, and they are quite active. Not active as much as everybody would like, but there's across the borough there's something like 2,000 roads. You can't police everything. But that's we can do that if you want your roads that you mentioned to have yellow lines, then you need to consult your borough councillors and ask them to lobby highways in Woking Borough to put in those double yellow lines.
Can I ask you another question then? The Sunday, last Bank Holiday Sunday, when you had the Seat Festival in Reading, okay? We had somebody parked over our drive, completely over it, so we could not get onto it. So we called the police on 101. They said it's nothing to do with them. They said you have to contact the council. How many councils work on a Sunday? What do we do then?
Well, it's a very, very simple answer. You're told false information. That was totally incorrect. The council only has responsibilities if there's a yellow line or 2 yellow lines on there.
What I was told was if they were blocking me from getting off my drive, they would come out. They're not as they're blocking me from getting onto my drive, they're not interested.
And that's down to the police. That's police making a decision on that. It's nothing to do with any council, unless, as I said, there are yellow lines down. I assume there isn't yellow lines outside your house, and so therefore it was the police, and you were given duffed information, I'm afraid. Correct about the getting off your drive, but not correct getting on your drive. Sorry.
And I have to say, so I live in Rowan Drive, which is behind the park, and we have the same trouble on Saturday with all the football. And
You've got
park
parking
both
restrictions
sides.
on a Saturday, haven't you?
So they have actually done some enforcement. They put up a temporary between, I think it's 9 and 1 on a Saturday, and we all voted for that. So we had a consultation, we all agreed that actually we wanted single yellow lines, and they have enforced it. So now there are lots and lots of tickets on a Saturday. So I would agree with Keith. I think it can be done. You've just got to get together with your neighbours and really lobby and push for that. And then hopefully the enforcement will come after the lines. Thank you. Any other questions?
It's just by way of something to do with the yellow lines. As one comes from Buxhill Road to turn down Church Road, there are lines there on the left-hand side, but there's a break. So you go into Church Road, and there are double yellow lines. And then there's a break where people can park, and then there's more double yellow lines. But the break where they can park is right on the bend. Why is that? It was changed. At one time there were no yellow lines. People could go up and down. For some reason, these yellow lines are put there, but I don't understand why there's a break. If there's supposed to be no parking, why is there a break?
It's a very, very good question. In fact, I was the borough councillor. It took me about 4 years to get those yellow lines in, and I fought tooth and nail with the relevant highways officer to not have that break, because it's a nonsense. You know, the biggest issue there was the parking was causing a one-way access, and there were accidents, there were people who had their fences destroyed, etc. It was so obvious, and the relevant officer would only do what you see. And at the end of the day, if the highways officer will not do what you want, you can't do anything about it. And up until I stepped down in May, I was continuing to ask for that particular space to be closed with more yellow lines. It's an utter nonsense. There's no common sense in it.
What would happen if somebody went along at some point with yellow
It's a great idea, but as an elected councillor, I can't recommend any such action. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
So as you can see, and I don't wish to dampen your enthusiasm, but the highway is out of our control. We can absolutely lobby, and we can do that through our town clerk, and we will do that. I just draw your attention to having this opportunity with these councillors in front of you now. Is there anything that isn't parking or road related to Woodley that you would like to discuss with us? Because this is a great opportunity. But don't forget, this isn't your only opportunity. At any point, you are welcome to walk into the offices, you're welcome to email the town council, you're welcome to email any councillor, and we will get back to you, or we will find somebody that can get back to you. So before we draw this to a close, is there anything else that anybody would like to ask or comment on?
The graffiti on the, I did raise this with Deborah, the previous town clerk, the graffiti on the, over the railway line, on the bridge, green base, and it seems like that's a permanent fixture these days. I think it was a bit of a discussion as to who's responsible, you know, but nothing's happened so far. It's been there for years now. It's like a welcome to Woodley.
Which one? The one at the end
This
of
is
the
about,
bridge?
not London Bridge. Yeah, where it goes over the Great Western Railway line. We don't have a footway there. I know there's been discussions about that, but the graffiti on both sides is still there. I just think the people who did it probably got over it by now, but I mean, it's still there.
Again, I can answer that. I read somewhere recently that the Network Rail, who are responsible, it's not the council, because it's their bridge, have categorised that type of graffiti as to be, I'm trying to remember the phrase, but sort of non-insulting, sort of neutral and minor, and with the implication that they're not going to do anything about it, unfortunately.
So the leftover yellow paint, upgrade it a little bit.
No swear words on it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
While we're on the subject of graffiti, there used to be a big board in Woodford Park that people were able to do their graffitiing on there, and some of it was very good. Very amazing. I wondered why perhaps there were a lot of arguments between different groups or something. You took it down, but I wondered why. It disappeared.
Sounds like Chief Bakershire. That board basically became so old that it had to be taken down. And so we've had several years now without it, just to see what would happen. And it has been raised over the last 6 months. about whether we should put a board back in there or not. So we haven't come to any decision, we haven't even started discussing it, but it is in there on the many, many things that we want to look at. But no promises.
Any other questions?
I've got a big voice actually. I was just wondering, what are you doing? You're doing D-Day in the park and you've got Carnival 2 days later. Are all the stalls and things going to stay for 3 days or are they one day gone? We've got visitors.
Exactly that. Well, Thursday is a council event,
yes.
Which will be fantastic, and we'd love to see you there in the evening, and we're going to be lighting a beacon, and that's a national thing. So we've chosen to celebrate it in quite a sort of a marked way, and then that will go, and then Saturday the carnival is a separate entity.
Okay. So there's nothing there on Friday.
Well, there'll be lots of people there putting fences up for carnival.
Yeah.
So if you feel the need to come and help, or anybody, then we'd love to see you. Anything else?
I've got a few of the
Yes,
written
the ones
ones.
that
Do
we
you know what,
sent
Chris is last, but I'm going to take a seat. Hope you don't mind.
No.
So yeah, a couple of these again are sort of Woking Borough elements, but I think they've been written in, and I think it's important that we get the questions asked anyway. So we've had a question in, or comments in from Sarah Wheeler. She's commented that there are a lot of uneven paving stones in Woodley precinct that are causing trip hazards. They're particularly bad outside Woodley News, and they're concerned for elderly residents walking around. They've also said sort of the gullies, as they describe them outside shops, make it difficult to steer a trolley around. They're specifically talking about by the town centre garden wall that's around there. Secondly, they've also pointed out that they don't believe there are enough disabled parking spaces in Waitrose car park, which is forcing some people to park in Liddell and then have to walk across. So there's 2 questions there from Sarah Wheeler.
Okay, and that first question, town centre management, are you able to answer that one around the routes?
Yes, I am. Hi, I'm Brian, the town centre manager. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
The first one about the gullies, I've actually had a walk around the town centre with a highways officer from Wokingham last week and actually looked at that specific issue. So Wokingham are aware of it. It is, once again, a Wokingham issue, I'm afraid, but they are aware of that particular issue. I don't know when it's going to be fixed, but they I assume pretty quickly now. It was a good meeting we had with them. We picked up a lot of issues around the town centre. The gully one, the state of the lampposts and the bollards, another, and the general unevenness of the flooring or the ground in the town centre. Yeah, they are aware of it.
Lovely, and thank you for your collaboration with them as well. We get things done much quicker when we collaborate like that, so thank you very much indeed. The second one regarding the disabled parking space, I'm going to ask Keith to answer.
The car parks again are owned by Woking Borough Council. They will tell you that the number of disabled car parking slots within the 4 car parks around the precinct is actually more than the government guidelines. So they will use that as a rationale for not adding more disabled car parking spaces. I think that's unfortunate. The 2 main car parks, Headley Road and what is colloquially known as the Waitrose car park, Crockenwell Road, there's, I think, well over 150 parking spaces in both of those car parks. They could easily lose 2, 3 or 4 of those, and the impact on revenue income would be minor, compared to what they get across the whole car park.
I think people are aware you can use disabled parking badge in any parking space. I know you do need bigger access sometimes for wheelchair users. I think that the government statistically has to be 4% have to be disabled spaces. So 4 out of every 100 have to be disabled spaces. But a lot of people don't realise you can use your blue badge in a normal space. And indeed, of course, you can park on a double yellow line in the bar with your badge as well.
Right, thank you. So we'll feed that back to that individual.
We've got 2 more questions, so I'll be brief with this. Julie Jones, who's asked 2 questions. Firstly, she asked about whether the parking restrictions along Haddon Drive were going to be permanent. I did already respond to her to say that that would be a Woking Borough decision and that she should raise that with them. But she's also asked whether it's possible to install some more lighting throughout Woodford Park and whether it would be possible to replace the net on the basketball hoop.
So do we think Kevin is probably best placed to answer that?
Yes, and just for information, we have been looking at potential for additional lighting in the park, both along the walkways and through other areas. At the moment, there is lighting along the main walkways, there's just some of those darker areas, but there is a balance to be struck there between lighting up the whole park and encouraging more people in certain areas or not. So that is something that we've been looking at.
And having said that, that was probably the best place in Woodley for a dark sky those nights that we saw the aurora. So I don't know if any of you went, but I did, and it was heaving with people because it is known to be quite a nice dark sky space. So there has to be a balance.
Just the other matter with the basketball nets, the one that's on there, somebody actually comes and puts one on there, but I did notice the other day it looks really solid, so it will be removed.
Thank you, Matt.
And Matt, just before you go back, on the Headley Drive temporary parking restrictions, the plan is, I was told, that will be made permanent. The issue with any new yellow lines, because that would be classified as new yellow lines, is that the way the Borough Council operate is that they wait and bundle up all such requests from across the borough. And that takes about 6 months. And then there's a month of consultation, and then a month of reviewing, and then eventually, if you're lucky, you get it. But the Headley Drive, I've had many discussions with the highways officers, and they have told me that that will be in the next batch. Don't ask me when that is. Probably the next couple of months. The last one was 3 or 4 months ago. But they say it will definitely be in that batch. Permanent.
And the last question we've got in from Robert Farquhar. He is part of a group of tennis players that used to play at Woodford Park and also Woodley Tennis Club before that, and obviously moved away when the number of tennis courts reduced in the area. But basically he sent in a very long proposal, excellent information, suggesting that the council consider installing a paddle tennis court at Woodford Park. Leisure Centre, for those that don't know, that's a fairly popular European sport now, actually. I know lots of Formula 1 drivers I see playing it all the time. So that's quite a big recommendation. I have already forwarded it to our Leisure Services Manager, so he's aware.
Matthew, I'll answer that question. As some of you might be aware, we're carrying out quite an extensive review of Woodford Park Leisure Services and so forth. And we have a working party that's currently looking at all sorts of leisure service activities that Woodford Park currently provide, including tennis and all the other sports that go on there. So we will include that as part of our working party discussions to see if it's something that we can incorporate in the future. But thanks for the question.
If I can just also follow up on that, if you haven't seen it anywhere and you have the ability, we have got a survey out at the moment. There are posters around asking for residents to feed in their thoughts about what facilities are at the leisure centre and what we might provide in future and what we might fund in terms of development. We've already had, I think it might have just tipped over 1,000 responses so far, which is really excellent. That's going on until just after the carnival. We'll see how the responses are then. But if you want to provide a response, that survey is available online. You'll find it. It's a pop-up on our website. And also let your friends and neighbours know as well, because we want to feed in, even from people who don't use the centre. We really want to find out whether there's anything that might encourage you to use some things. So if you don't know about that, please do take the time to fill in that survey for us. It'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Just hand over to Keith.
Yes, I would like to bring something to your attention, since I've got quite a few residents here, and I would like you to pass that on to all your neighbours, friends, people you don't like even, because it's important to get this message out. We've recently had a situation on a planning application, and the way planning applications operate generally, they're delegated to officers. A borough councillor can force them to be reviewed by the planning committee, and the planning committee is made up of councillors, not professionals. But there is a time limit that your local ward member, your borough councillor, can actually submit a request called listing to list and make sure it goes to the planning committee rather than an officer making a decision on their own. The issue we had was that the resident of a particular application had major objections and valid objections. And by the time they didn't contact their ward member. By the time it got to the town council planning committee, who is just a consultee, just like residents, it was too late to list it. So the message is, if you've got a planning application in your road or behind you or whatever, and you have objections to it, obviously you need to lodge those objections on the website, planning website, but please, please contact your local borough councillor for your ward, and ask them to list the planning application, because there's nothing more frustrating for a resident to have valid objections against the planning application and find it's not going to be able to have much weight because they've missed a deadline. End of message. Thank you.
So thank you, and I'd just like to thank everybody for coming this evening. Thank you for sitting through a few sets of presentations. Thank you for your questions and thank you for your engagement. I will reiterate again, this is not a one-off opportunity. You know, please come and talk to us. We've got lots of councillors in the audience this evening who hopefully you'll be able to meet when we go and have some cheese and wine. But equally, if you email any of the officers at the Town Council with any questions, we will do our very best to get back to you. Regardless of what political party we represent, we are all here for the people of Woodley, and that is our primary focus. So please use us to support you in your questions or your needs for feeding stuff up to the borough. Thank you very much. I think your cheese is nicely fermenting and probably is poisonous.
Running out of the room at the moment.
Okay. So if you'd like to join us in the carnival suite, then please feel free. If you need to go, then that's fine, but it would be lovely to talk to some of you. Thank you very much.